Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. My next guest, he didn't call us. We called him because I've just been using his Twitter feed or his X feed or whatever it's called now for show prep, trying to keep up with the Texas legislative session. And Representative Brian Harrison here going down to Austin every day. I am just shocked. First off, welcome to the James Show. I am just shocked at how little has gotten done. Tell the people listening, because they're not following your Twitter feed, how bad this session has been.
Hey, James. Great to be with you, my friend, and glad you reached out. Happy to talk and educate the voters and taxpayers of the great state of Texas about what I think is one of the biggest betrayals of voters in Texas, not just in our state history, but maybe anywhere in the country. I mean, President Donald Trump, who I had the privilege of working for, I was a senior member of his administration in the first term. He wins Texas in a landslide, goes back to D.C. and a mandate, and he's working 20-hour days, delivering massive conservative victories just in 3 weeks that he's been in office. He's done more to end DEI in Texas, quite frankly, than the Texas House of Representatives has in the last 3 years. But what folks need to know, and it's going to shock them. What I'm about to say is going to shock you.
Oh, I know it.
You're listening to the show. If you voted for a Republican to go down to the Texas Legislature and represent you, the odds are very good that Republican teamed up with a bunch of Democrats and some other rhinos. And even though Trump won the state of Texas, they have put Kamala Harris's team in charge of the Texas House. So even though we've got an 88 to 62 massive majority in the Texas House, Democrats are in charge. And what they've done, just today, a Democrat was made Speaker pro tem of the Texas House. We have done almost no work in the.
Well, hang on now. Days. How many bills have y'all gotten passed?
Oh, let's talk. Let me hit you with some numbers then, since you asked the question. So the Texas House has been in session for 31 days, but as of this morning, we had no committees formed. We got those today. We've had 0 bills referred to committees. We've had 0 hearings. We've had 0 bills passed. But we have done a couple things. The number of House resolutions to praise Beyonce, we passed one of those. We've spent 2 days on the floor discussing Beyonce, and we have taken 4 long weekends in the 4 weeks since we have been here. This is Operation Run Out the Clock, so Republican priorities die and Democrats are empowered.
Weren't they trying to take a week off?
I think the longest we did was 5 or 6 days. Yeah, they want to burn the clock so that Republican voters who sent us down here to put our state on a path to eliminate property taxes, to stop having their taxes weaponized against them and their values by funding DEI and transgender ideology in our public universities, to put parents in charge of their kids' education and pass school choice. The so-called Republicans that are in the Texas House, let me tell you how this happened. 30 of our Republicans, 30-something, teamed up with 50 Democrats to elect our speaker. So even though our speaker has an R, a Republican by his name, he is controlled by 50 of Kamala Harris's biggest supporters in the state of Texas.
Brian, explain to me how this happened.
Democrats' power.
Sorry to interrupt. So explain to me how this happens every 2 years. We think we're sending a bunch of Team Red Republicans down to Austin to fix things, and it just seems half of them are Democrats in disguise. I mean, why do we get this so wrong every time?
It is one of the most underreported scandals in America. Elected Republicans, every election, you see them in primaries in November. They say, vote for me, and I will stand up to the radical left that wants to indoctrinate the next generation. They say, vote for me, and I will fight the liberal Democrats who are going to bankrupt our country. But the second they get down here to the swamp of Austin, and let me tell you, the Austin swamp is worse than the D.C. swamp.
It must be. It really must be. This is what we're learning here.
There's something in the water. The very first thing they do when the constituents aren't watching is they vote to put those very same leftist Democrats in charge, and then they collude with them to kill Republican priorities, and then they work with them again to advance big government socialism.
So where's your district?
My district is proud to represent District 10, which is just south of Dallas County. It's Ellis County, so I've got Waxahachie and Midlothian and Ennis and a whole bunch of other small communities that I'm honored to represent.
Oh, okay. So no excuse. You should be listening to the James Show on a regular basis here, Brian.
I love listening to the James Show. I love WBAP. I was thrilled when you reached out.
Oh, fantastic. Well, listen, we are having the event with Brian Kilmeade coming up February 26th. You should come out, and if you are going to come out, let me know so I can tell people, hey, one of your elected representatives is going to be here, because we have a lot of people who listen in your district for sure. But it'd be a good chance to meet you and meet some of the other people listening. Just let me know if you're going to show up, and I'll be sure and promote it.
I'm a fan of Brian Kilmeade. Was actually on his show not too long ago, and I've been listening to WBAP since I was a young lad running around, and I would love to join you on the 26th. I'll make a note of that right here and follow up with you.
All right. I want you to be my point guy on just what a dumpster fire this legislative session is. Can you stay in touch with me on that too?
Oh, 100%. And if folks want real-time updates, if they follow me on X, just at Brian E. Harris. And I try to what they don't want you to do down here is be transparent, because transparency is like kryptonite in the swamp. So every single day I try to update millions of Texans about the truth of the betrayal of how Republican voters are being stabbed in the back by their elected representatives. Because we should be we're Texas. I love this state. We should be leading the nation in freedom and individual liberty and low taxes and low regulations. And we got to end property taxes. And that's what the voters of Texas want. It's what they deserve. But too many elected Republicans are colluding with Democrats to make that what should be a vision, what should be our mandate, to turn power over to the Democrats so that they can indoctrinate the next generation and bankrupt them. And we've got to have Republicans stand up and fight against them. That's what I'm trying to do every day down here in Austin.
All right, this is Texas State Rep Brian Harrison coming out of District 10. And look, I recommend following him on Twitter/X if you want to keep up with the legislative session. That's just some cliff notes that I discovered. And even though he's an Aggie, you should still go follow him anyway. Thank you very much, Brian.
Great to be with you, James.
Appreciate it. And Aggies, don't at me. That was just a friendly joke. All right, coming up next, got some hot sports opinions on the Dallas police chief saying he's not going to comply with immigration requests from ICE. If you want to jump in on the conversation on that or what Brian Harrison was just talking about, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, look, every year the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame comes out with its nominees and then its inductees, and people are going to complain because so-and-so got left out or so-and-so doesn't deserve to be included. But as I look over the list for this year, this one's pretty solid. There's not a whole lot to complain about from my view on this one. However, let's ask the professor of pop culture, Dr. Bob Thompson from Syracuse. Welcome to the James Show. And as far as list goes, I have to do this almost every year being in talk radio. There's not a whole lot of points of criticism I can see.
No, nobody I would cut out of there. I mean, I suppose if we really sat down and thought, there's a lot of people who aren't on there, but I don't see anyone on there that doesn't deserve it. Though it's interesting, if you're not like a pretty intense historian of popular music, there are very few people who I think you could hand this list of 14 people or groups to that would know every single one on the list.
I don't know Mana.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's interesting. That's it's a Mexican rock band, and if they were to be inducted, I believe, I could be wrong about this, but I think they would be the first inductee that performs almost exclusively in Spanish, which is kind of interesting that we've gotten to 2025, if that indeed is the case. But if you, for example, if you showed my students who are in their, early 20s, late teens, this group, there's a whole bunch of them, if any. They'd know Mariah Carey, of course, because they're awake during December.
Right.
But a lot of the other ones were. Now, part of that has to do with the fact that in order to be to get nominated, you've got to have had your first commercial release at least 25 years ago. So if you're 21, that's before you were born.
All right, let me just roll through the list real quick. Bad Company, Black Crowes, Mariah Carey, Chubby Checkers, Joe Cocker, Billy Idol, Joy Division / New Order. I can see why they did that. Cyndi Lauper, Mana, Oasis, Outkast, Fish, Soundgarden, White Stripes. Now, Outkast, clearly out of the genre, but we've seen this so much in rock and roll nominations in the past.
Dolly Parton.
Sure. But I think we've even seen like Run DMC and the Beastie Boys make it in there, something to that effect. Yep. So if they're going to make it, then Outkast definitely should. I mean, they actually play instruments on some of their songs. So I think the biggest surprise is Chubby Checker's not already in there.
That is, every now and again when I see one of these lists, I think, wow, how old is this Hall of Fame? And this is the first time we're seeing this person, or they still being nominated. Yeah, I mean, Chubby Checker essentially is known for one song, which is Twist. He did have another top 10, though. I forget, was it Pony Time? Might have been a number one. Anyway, I think this may have been his first nomination. So that was surprising to me. That was 60 years ago. And alas, he won't be able to show up for the celebration if he gets inducted.
You know, I just assumed that he had a lot more hits than that. There's Twist and it's Pony Time. Isn't that the other? There's. Let's see. Let me look at the list. Limbo Party.
Those are the number ones. He had other songs, obviously, but those are the big giant hits that he had.
All right. So maybe I spoke too quick on Chubby Checker, but yeah, it's hard to argue against this list. Kind of surprised Joe Cocker's not already in there.
Yeah, I was surprised at that as well. Now, some of these are, and it's been opening up much more as the years have gone on as to what constitutes rock and roll. Now, it's essentially a Hall of Fame of, I think we'd have to call it popular music at this point, because there's a lot of this stuff that I'm not sure we'd put in rock and roll. But I was kind of surprised Cyndi Lauper hadn't already been that. This is her second nomination. She was nominated and didn't get it back in, not last year, but the year before, 2023.
All right. Now, all these people aren't going to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I guess this is going to get whittled down. We have 14 now. Could 14 make it, or does it have to go down to like the top 8 or something?
Well, there's no specific number, so they usually induct usually about a half a dozen. They've done I think the first year was 10, and what a list that was. But you've got to get over 50% approval. So of the voters, over 50% of them have to vote that you should get in there. So that'll narrow it down quite a bit. And then it goes to the highest voters, though it's kind of mysterious how many actually get in. And it's different every year. It'll go from 8 to 12 to 10. It's kind of all over the place. And the people who vote they're academics and journalists and producers and others involved with music. It's one of these awards things that are a little bit mysterious and not completely transparent.
Have you ever been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
I have. Have you?
I have not. Is it worth going?
It is. And by the way, it's February. What a beautiful time to go up to Cleveland.
Oh, yeah.
Right now.
That's a good one.
But no, anyway, it's right on the lake, and it's interesting architecture, and of course, it took forever for that thing to finally open. They started talking about that. It seemed like decades before it finally got there. But it's fun, and I was joking about Cleveland in February, but Cleveland's actually a fun place to go. It's got a great art museum, great symphony orchestra, and of course, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame makes it now a real destination.
Yeah, I've never heard anyone brag on the Cleveland Symphony Orchestra, so I'll have to take your word on that one. Dr. Bob Thompson, professor of pop culture, Syracuse University. It was a good chat. Thanks for coming on the show.
It was fun. Thank you.
Yeah, I like not having something to complain about on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame list. It's nice to just be a generally positive guy and say nice things. Not like, oh, why is so-and-so on the list? These people are out of their mind. That was fantastic. All right, coming up next, Valentine's tomorrow. Gentlemen, don't screw it up. I'll give you some advice on the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. So we got a lot going on, starting with the next station event is going to be February 26th. People ask me, when's the next meetup? Well, I'm going to sort of piggyback on this Brian Kilmeade visit. He's coming in. He's the guy from Fox and Friends. He's on KLIF, our sister station, in the mornings at like 9 to 11, I think. And when he came in last year, it was great. We were at a place over in Irving, and it filled up pretty quick. So we're going to be at a bigger place on February 26th, Community Beer. I haven't been inside it, but the building's huge. It looks like it used to be a Bed Bath & Beyond or something. Wasn't it like an AutoZone or something there? It was something big. And I would still recommend getting there before it starts with a little bit of a cushion if you want to make sure you get a seat. It starts at 6 o'clock. And I was trying to look this up. Last time they did an hour or two of a live broadcast. Well, I think they're doing that again. And so from 6 to 8, they'll be breaking into KLIF's live programming to bring you the special event with Brian Kilmeade here in your backyard. But you can come out and say hi, and I can't promise he'll do this again, but last time he stuck around, and I hung out after the event for a good hour and a half, and he was still there just talking to people. In fact, most people talked to him and had already left by the time I was done. But when I left, it was just me and this guy named Paul talking to him, and after about an hour and a half of that, we took off. So look, this is a chance to not just see him and be in the same room as him, as he is, meet him, see him do a broadcast, and then interact with him after the show. Now, I'm going to be there. Miss Parker will be there. Other James Show listeners will be there. Hi, Miss Parker. And if y'all want to meet each other and mingle, that's always a cool scene to find other like-minded people, especially. There's a lot of people who listen to WBAP who are in the situation I'm in. You just assume that all my friends are Team Red or Republicans or whatever. Once you get outside of my nuclear family, way more than half of my friends are Team Blue. And I don't mind. I love them all just the same. And you don't have to politically agree with me in order to be my friend or have my respect. But it does get kind of exhausting, right? Isn't it nice when you can hang out with other people who share your values and your sensibilities, and you can say jokes that you don't have to worry about someone getting the red butt over or getting offended about? Or yeah, that's more what this is about. Not even necessarily to meet me or meet Brian Kilmeade, but for you people to meet each other. I think that's super important, because it also kind of dispels that overwhelming feeling that you get if you are surrounded by Team Blue. If you're surrounded by Team Blue, when you turn on the TV, there's Team Blue. When you listen to music, you hear the messaging of Team Blue. When you turn on Netflix, you hear the messaging of Team Blue. Academics, cable news everywhere except for Fox News. It's a really good reminder that you're not the odd man out. They are the odd man out. You are the overwhelming majority. You're just too nice, and you're too silent, and you're too agreeable. And for some reason, people can quite easily forget about that. So, yeah, that's going to be our next event. And then after that, there's a couple of events that are happening the next day. Now, it's not our station event, but it's groups that you hear on the James Show. The Dallas County Republicans are having a Meet the Candidates event on February 27th. That's going to happen up in sort of the North Dallas, Addison area, Beltline and the Tollway. There's a shopping center that has between Montfort and the Tollway, just south of Beltline. That big shopping center, there's going to be an event there with Alan West, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, and then also Sarah Gonzalez from the Blaze. They're going to be hosting that one. And then the same day, there's another event. I believe it's in a different county where there's another Meet the Candidates event. Oh, and there's a social for the American Jewish Conservatives. There's all kinds of stuff coming up. So, that's another thing I'm adding to this show that you may have noticed. There's been a little bit of an evolution in the James Show. I wasn't doing a whole lot of this the first year, right? I just started here January 1st of 2024. So now that it's been a little over a year, you're going to start to notice some changes. Number one, there's no point in doing social events when you don't know me yet. February of last year, no one would have come to a James Show meet and greet because you didn't know me and you didn't care. And I don't take offense to that, rightly so. You had only maybe heard me for about a month or so. But now we know each other. Now you've heard me run my mouth for hours and hours and hours, and I've gotten so much feedback, if not from you specifically, people like you, like-minded people. So now we're going to be ramping up all the social events here in 2025. I'm going to try and do one a month. I did one in December and January. For February, I'm going to piggyback on the Brian Kilmeade event. And so I'm already looking for March. There's a venue in Plano. They're James Show listeners. They reached out. So I think the March event is going to be in Plano. So that means The next event I'm looking for will be for the month of April, and I'm looking for a venue. And I'm looking for a venue where either the owners or the general managers or whoever that's in charge and runs the place, that I want them to be James Show listeners. I want them to know WBAP. They don't have to be ADLs. They don't have to listen all day. But if they know, like if you went up to them and you were like, hey, you know the James Show? And they're like, yeah, I love that show. I want to go to a place like that. That's where I'm going to do it. Until people start paying me to go to these other places, I am only going to reward the existing James Show crowd, because I would like for there to be a little bit of reward. If I have to bribe you to listen to the show, I will. So I can bribe you with promotion, I guess. Also, on tomorrow's show, we're going to have to go into a deep dive on what's going on with our teachers, because there's a school in Arlington, and I didn't report on it yet because it wasn't that big of a deal. There was some teacher who had an inappropriate relationship with a student, and then there was something that was added to it yesterday, and then today I find out there's like a half dozen people who are rolled up into this. There's a teacher, there's like a coach, there's some other administrator. I don't know if they have a janitor or something rolled in there. But then there's also a principal got in trouble, and I think he's just in trouble for not reporting it. I don't think he's actually involved in the inappropriate relationships with the kids. But that's a lot of people just from one school. And then you add all this in with all the other nasty teacher stories that we've been sharing. We've got ourselves a huge problem. And it's not getting any better. And we've been talking about it really solid for about a year now. This keeps coming up just as hot and heavy and fast as it can go. And I don't think it's getting any better. So come back to the James Show tomorrow for a little bit of that too, because, you know, these latest accusations, it's just piling up. All right, stick around. Coming up next, Mark Levin. If you need more James Show action, I'm about to go put up the podcast wherever you're already listening to podcasts. So just look for the James Show. Find me on social media. That's a big one too. Find me on X, James Parker Show. Find me on Facebook. Find me on Instagram. Whatever you're already on, find me on that. Follow me. Every little click helps. Every share helps. I super duper appreciate it. It's the one thing you can do aside from listening to my show that would really help me out. Social media is huge. So thank you for that in advance. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.